Penguin Random House Audio presents Optimal Illusions, The False Promise of Optimization. This is the author, Coco Krumme. Introduction. In the middle of the field, the bulldozer pauses, and out pops its driver for a cigarette break. It's a perfect September day in northern Kentucky, crisp, blue, free. A neighboring dozer carves anthill ruts through the construction site. In the distance are horse pastures and strip malls. I weave past the open gate up one of the bulldozed roads until I reach the end of an ant rut. I park my small pickup truck, windows down, and let the dog out for a walk. The sun warms my face and my thoughts are lost in the dirt canvas, until suddenly I feel the driver's eyes fix on me. This isn't my anthill to explore. He crushes out a cigarette and settles his gaze again in my direction, indifferent now, before turning back toward his rig and the work ahead. Some say America's too new a country to have runes. I say our runes are just better hidden, under the sheen of the new. In Athens, the Parthenon stands tall and crumbling, like a drive-in movie screen strung high above the tourists and cafe dwellers below. In Rome, the Colosseum anchors a swirling city, its cold stone presence cutting through the chatter of tour guides and the grease of cheap pizza and the plastic trinkets made overseas. At Teotihuacan, you could clamber up each imposing pyramid and practically touch the scorching sky. In America, by contrast, we hide our runes in the desert or cart them off to Chinese scrapyards. After September 11, the remnants of the World Trade Center were wrapped like widows in black canvas, quietly disassembled and sent abroad. An engineer named Cao Shanzhen says to the Chicago Tribune of the injured steel, "America can't use it all, but China has a huge demand." Now I watch the bulldozer driver carve new runes into his field. He's helping build the Amazon Air Hub, a $1.5 billion site expected to host some 100 cargo airplanes, 300 trucks, and a robotic sort center sprawling over 1 million square feet. Slated to open in 2021, it's currently a mess of construction equipment and barricades. As Americans moved more of their shopping online at the onset of the 2020 pandemic, Amazon sales increased some 40%. The company's revenues grew by a mind-boggling $100 billion. An efficiently scheduled fleet of aircraft will cut hours and days off already fast delivery times. If the North America circulatory system conveys packages and goods to its every extremity, this corner of Kentucky represents its anthill heart. UPS and DHL and Wayfair have distribution centers here. 65% of the population of the United States lives within 600 miles, a one-day drive or 90-minute flight away. It's close to 5 other airports, to rail lines and rivers and ports. Nearly 3 billion pounds of cargo pass through the Cincinnati Northern Kentucky International Airport annually, a number that continues to rise as Amazon expands its fleet. Something as seemingly local as a Maine lobster might be diverted west through Kentucky, only to be sent east again to an upscale restaurant in New York. The circulatory system, its trucks and airplanes and conveyor belts and plastic bubble wrap, is kept in motion by a set of equations and code. This code tells each box where to go and when, in the most efficient way. Undergirding all this is a set of mathematical models that's explored each possibility, assigned probabilities, and planned contingencies. And beneath this set of models, the hidden choreographer is a way of looking at the world. This way of seeing is the subject of this book. It's a perspective that assumes our material reality can be understood, parceled, harnessed, and ultimately predicted. Not just Amazon's cargo jets, but everything from the crashing of waves to the outbreak of war, to the intricacies of love, boils down to a set of parameters that can, with the right equipment, be measured and described. It's an intoxicating thought and one that tugged at me for years. I was drawn to mathematical modeling because it promised an elegant bridge between pure logic and the messiness of the real world. Like the bulldozer carving lines on its anthill canvas, it offered the driver's seat, the chance to superimpose topography onto the rugged landscape. It also afforded a vantage point from which to marvel at what lay beyond, the world yet unmapped and perhaps not fully mappable. The man I saw in the bulldozer was, in all likelihood, not fitting his ruts to the existing undulations of the construction site, but carrying out a design engineered and approved in some faraway office, to make the most profitable use of the space at hand. Optimization enabled this as well, shoving dirt according to a master plan, forcing the landscape into preconceived lines. For a moment, I found myself quite unexpectedly at the pinnacle of this way of seeing. By the time I emerged from a stint at MIT and headed towards Silicon Valley, these places had become overnight meccas for optimization. Modern scientific computing was in full swing. The machinery for moving dirt was developing at breakneck speed. A new generation of cloud technologies spewed forth trillions of calculations per second, and buzzwords like deep learning and neural networks hung thick in the air like artificial fog at a rock concert. Software engineers shoved data into models, increasing efficiency in everything from digital advertisements to nutritional supplements. Caught off guard at this pinnacle, but with the right skills, I decided to do two things at once. First, I dove into the foggy absurdity, working at startups and then striking out on my own. Second, I tried to maintain my romanticism about mathematics as a map, an elegant approximation. I failed at first because, unlike most people who succeed in Silicon Valley, I didn't care enough for money or status to chase it with any gusto. As for the second, well, no one seemed to care much for maps and topography when the money was falling off trees. My own romanticism persisted. I started a scientific consulting business, working with researchers in logistics, climate science, and agriculture. I built models for how species evolve through a stretch of history, for how people's habits change, for the way a storm develops and how crops grow, for the movement of ships around the globe. I made maps and shoved dirt. Everyone wanted more data, more models, more solutions. The late June fog over the San Francisco Bay thickened. It was unsettling, but also, in an altogether different way, intoxicating. Except for one thing. I didn't buy it anymore. My romanticism had waned. I increasingly felt the fakeness in all this abstraction, in trying to represent the lushness of a field with green pixels on a satellite map. By contrast, the general excitement for the tools of optimization seemed only to grow. The more I felt this fanaticism, the more I disbelieved it myself. My disenchantment was grounded in the excesses of the tech industry, but it didn't begin or end there. I bemoaned the yoke of corporate schedules and resisted upgrading my old flip phone for about a decade past the point of embarrassment. I began to contemplate, on the one hand, how to escape Silicon Valley, and on the other, how to destroy it. Disenchanted, and without any better idea, I started talking to people. I found myself wandering around, first in the agricultural Midwest and then all over the country. I met farmers and freight brokers, carpenters and oil workers. As soon as I could afford it, I bought a patch of land on a remote northwestern island with a rundown cabin and endeavored to learn the skills necessary to fix it up. Everyone I told in San Francisco thought I was nuts. We were at the height of an incredible age, they reminded me. Not only that, but what I did was in high demand. Data science salaries were through the roof. I had the right knowledge to make a mark. What was I doing rambling on about well water testing and passive solar? I don't understand, with your skills, why you're not flying around with billionaires in private jets right now, a cousin volunteered, only half joking. The only way I can explain it, it being my presence in San Francisco with a boatload of seemingly critical expertise and little interest in capitalizing, is that you must be an ethical person or something, a venture capitalist said to me, as if he'd just encountered a polar bear in the Amazonian rainforest. Indeed, as my peers were spinning up data teams at hedge funds and pharmaceutical companies, I was hanging out at sugar beet factories in North Dakota. I still couldn't pinpoint the locus of my disillusionment, but I knew it had to do with the growing distance between my two worlds, the world represented by numbers on computer screens and the world in plain sight. It wasn't until I moved into the half-built cabin, with a hole in the subfloor and walls I needed to finish and logs I needed to split in order to keep the wood stove going, that it really hit home. Here I was, fiddling away on my laptop for some far-off research group that wanted a better way to model wildfire spread in California so it could sell more insurance to homeowners. Then I'd put the laptop away and fiddle with the faulty well pump, or stuff walls with the sheep wool's insulation I'd carted up in cardboard boxes from Oregon. My vegetable starts mostly faltered, and I slowly made friends in the community. I realized the skills that had brought me here, the skills that put me at the pinnacle of this new belief system of efficiency and optimization, These weren't the
Sample complete. Ready to continue?